We're gonna go over the list in the while loop today. So a while loop executes a command continuously until a condition is satisfied. And when that condition is false, the while loop stops. And then the program continues after the while loop to the next line. So like, for example, while it's raining, I will use an umbrella. So that means if raining is true, then you will continue using the umbrella. But then when it stops raining, you'll stop using the umbrella. And that's when raining is false. So you would say while, and then you'd put a condition here, and then put a colon after the condition, and then you hit tab, and then write whatever you want to happen. So like if we wanted to print each number from 1 to 10, we'd have to make a variable equal to 1, right? So we'd say while x is less than 11, print x, and then x equals x plus 1. So every time this loop ends, x gets like 1 more in value. So it goes to 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then all the way to 10. So we can use the comparison operators, logical operators, and membership operators in the while loop condition. So here we said it just keeps adding 1 until 10. So if you want to have like a forever while loop and like that never ends, you can just say while and then true. So if we have x equals 0, and then we say while true, and then we say print x, and then x equals x plus 1, this while loop prints 1. It prints like each number continuously and it never stops. So if you see the output here, it never ended. So the difference between like a for loop and a while loop. So when we have to do, when we printed from 1 through 4 here, we have to say like, we can make our own range, like say 1 through 4, and then we can just print that loop variable. But here we have to make our own variable, and then we set that to 1. And then we set a while that's less than 4. We gave a condition here. And when that's true, we print the variable. Oh, no, it prints from 1 through 3. So we said while n is less than 4, it will print from 1 through 3. So it prints 1, and then it gets added by 1, then prints 2, and then gets added by 1, and then prints 3, and it gets added by 1. So now it's 4, and n is not less than 4. So this statement becomes false. So yeah. Oh, wait, do you guys have any questions on the while loop? Okay, so for the list, it's basically like variables that can store multiple elements. So they're closed in between the square bracket, and they're separated by commas. Each element has a specific index, and they always start at 0. So if we have a list 4, 34, high, 12, 65, and 4 is it's at the 0th index, and then 34 is at the first index. So it always starts at 0. So if we said the list name, which is L, and then in square bracket we put 0, then we'll get an output of 4. And if we did L1, we get 34. So if we put the list name and then an index inside the bracket, then we get an output of whatever's in that place. So lists can be edited after we make it too. So if we wanted to add an element to a list, we can use the append function to add elements, and then it will add an element at the end of a list. So if we said the list name and then said dot append, and then we put an element inside, it will add it at the end of the list. So if we have a list called objects, and if we have that equal to pencil, paper, and book, and then we wanted to append bottle, so we wanted to add bottle to that objects list, we said objects.append and then bottle. So if I print that list objects, we get pencil, paper, book, and bottle. And you see bottle is added, and the original list didn't have bottle. So if we wanted to add an item, a specific index, we'd say list name.insert index comma element. So we have objects here equal to pencil, paper, and book again. So if we said objects.insert 1 comma bottle, we'd put bottle at the first index. So if we printed objects, we get pencil, and at the first index we'd have bottle, and then paper and book. So you see bottle is added in the first index. So if we wanted to remove something from a list, we can use the pop function. So if you use the pop function and then with no numbers inside the parentheses, it removes the last element in the list. So if we said list name dot pop, so if we said object equals pencil, paper, and book again, and said objects dot pop, it'll remove book. So then if we print objects, we'll get pencil and paper with no book because we popped it or removed it. And then if we use the pop function with the number inside the parentheses, we can remove an element at a certain index. So if we said like pop 0, it'll remove the first thing in the list. So we'll just say list name dot pop and then in parentheses index. So if we said object equals pencil, paper, and book again, and then if we said objects dot pop 0, it'll remove pencil. So then if we print objects, we only get paper and book because we removed it at the 0th index. Also, if we wanted to remove something, we can also use the remove function and remove a specific element inside that list. So if we said objects equals pencil, paper, and book again, then objects dot remove paper, then we can remove paper from the list. So if we said print objects, we'd only get pencil and book because we removed paper. So if we wanted to reverse or like make our list inverted, we can just use the reverse function. So we can swap like each element inside the list. So if we said list name dot reverse, we'd reverse it. So if we said objects equals pencil, comma paper, comma book, and then we said objects dot reverse, and then we print the objects, we get book, paper, pencil because that's in the reverse order. And then if we want to put it in alphabetical order, we can use the sort function. We can also do it with numbers, and that'll make it from I think least to greatest. So if we use sort, and then if we said list dot sort over here, objects equals pencil, comma paper, comma book, comma zebra. So if we said objects dot sort and then print objects, you can see it's in alphabetical order. So it's book, paper, pencil, and zebra. So if we use the for loop on a list, it'll print each element in the list. So we have a list called fruits, and it's equal to apple, orange, cherry, blueberry, and raspberry. So if we did a for loop in fruits, and then if we print loop, so remember loop was it was the count variable. So it'll go through each and every single element. So then it'll print apple, and then after that it'll print orange, then cherry, then blueberry, then raspberry. Yeah, that's just the lesson for today. You guys have any question on a list? Okay, so print all the numbers from 1 through. Oh wait, let me put. I'm gonna put the PDF in the Google Classroom. Okay, I put the PDF version in there. So try to print all the numbers from 1 through 50 using a while loop, and then tell me when you're done with that. You need to make a variable at the start equal to 1, and then keep adding 1 in the while loop to do it. Okay, I'm gonna go over it. So we have to make a variable called x equals 1 at first, and then we have to say while it's less than 51, because we don't want it to go over 51. Print x. So if we said, and then x equals x plus 1. So we print x at first, and it's 1, and then we add 1, and then keep printing, and go to 2, then to 3, then to 4, until it hits 50. And then when it hits 51, it won't print x because when x is 51, it's not less than 51, and then the statement will be false, and then it won't print, and then we'll continue.
Mr. Anish,
Mhm.
when I write the code and when I try running it, still it gives me like this error. And I actually tried installing the other Python app, but then it failed to open it. Actually, so I had to like reinstall it again. It didn't work. So, PyCharm is like my only option right now.
Okay. Wait. So the print statement you said didn't work? Or?
Yeah, whenever I press whenever I run the code, it gives me the signal or interrupted by signal 9 something.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is still. I'm still trying to look for an answer to it. I'll tell you when I know. Okay. So number 2, print only the even numbers from 1 through 20 using a while loop and an if condition. So to print even numbers, so if you divide it by 2, the remainder is always 0. So try using the modulo function in the if statement in the while loop. Okay, I'll go over the answer now. So we have to make a variable called x equals 2. You can also do it with 0 if you want. So we said while x is less than 21, because we want to print all the even numbers from 1 through 20. So we said if x modulo 2 equals 0. So if the remainder of x divided by 2 equals 0, because that's what an even number is, we print that number and then we add 1 to it. So if we run it, we get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, because if we divide it by 2, then the remainder is 0. And then we have to keep adding it by 1, and then we'll keep checking. And if it's not, if the variable divided by 2 is not equal to 0, it won't print, but we'll still add 1 and then keep doing it until 20. So for number 3, try doing the same thing, but using a while loop and without an if condition. So print only the even numbers from 1 to 20 without an if condition and a while loop. Okay, I'm going to go over the answer to this problem. So we make a variable called x equals 2, and then a while x is less than 21. We print that variable, and then instead of adding 1, we add 2, because we only want the even number. So it goes from 2, and then after it's done, it goes to 4, and then to 6, then to 8, then to 10, then to 12, all the way to 20. And it doesn't count all the odd numbers because we started x at 2. So ask the user for their name and then print their name forever with 1 second gap. So you're going to need the time module, and you're also going to need a while loop and an input, and the while true function. I'll go over the answer now. So you have to import time first, and then you have to print what is your name, and then you have to store that in an input. I call it name. So now you have the user's name stored in the variable name. So in a while true loop, that means it goes forever because it's true. You print name, that was the user's input, and then do time.sleep1. So it'll print their name and then wait a second and then print their name and then it'll wait a second and then keep doing that forever. Create a list of 5 fruits and then print the first fruit in the list. So try writing the list name and then in brackets put the index of that fruit. Okay, I'll go over the answer. So first we have to make a list called fruits, and then we just put apple, orange, cherry, blueberry, and raspberry. You can put anything in there. And then to print the first thing in that list, which was apple, we had to print fruits and then in brackets 0, because apple is at the 0th index in the list, because we always go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on and on. So we print fruits and then 0. So add another fruit in the second index and then print that list. I'll go over the answer now. So we have the list fruits equals apple, orange, cherry, blueberry, and raspberry. So if we want to insert any element at a certain index, we have to use the insert function. So we do fruits.insert and then 2, which is the index number, comma, whatever we wanted to add. So we said blackberry. So we added blackberry over here. So we print fruits and that would say apple, orange, blackberry, cherry, blueberry, and then raspberry. Yeah, so that's it for today. We ended a bit early, so